about our diabetes risk test, as well as a new program that ADA will be launching shortly. So I will go ahead and share my screen. I'm sharing our diabetes risk test. So our diabetes risk test is 7 questions that someone can answer to find out if they're at risk for type 2 diabetes. And I will quickly go through and share with you the diabetes risk test. The opportunity here would be for you to encourage your employees to take the diabetes risk test, or ADA. We also have partnerships where you would be able to receive the diabetes risk test through a vanity URL. We also have an opportunity with using it through an iframe. So example, if you have customers that you might want to have take the diabetes risk test, this could be something that is hosted on your site and would picture frame into ADA's site in order to be able to use the tool. So I want to make sure that you know that it is available in English as well as Spanish. I'll indicate that I'm taking the diabetes risk test for someone else. So these are very simple questions, but we do want to be able to provide more information. So if someone's interested in why does age matter, we always want to make sure that we provide that context. So again, very simple questions. And these are meant for people to be able to answer them without having necessarily all of the clinical data. So this one, do you have a family member with diabetes, which I do? Have you ever been diagnosed with high blood pressure? Are you physically active? Your race and ethnicity. So this actually has a heavy weighting as far as risk factor for developing diabetes. There are specific ethnic and racial groups that have a higher incidence of diabetes. And so here, someone would be able to put in their email address or their zip code, and they'll get their results emailed to them. But you can also click this test, and you can see right here, it's on the border. So high risk would be a score of 5 or more. And again, there's a link here to be able to email your score. Then down here, there are also tips and resources for people related to prediabetes. So more information on the diabetes prevention program, talking about the diabetes basics, connecting people with our healthy living resources and tools, such as our diabetes food hub, and then more information on physical activity. So some of this is our physical activity events, as well as our activity guide. So back up here, if it asks a question, if you've been diagnosed with type 2, or if you have been told that you have prediabetes. So you can select one of these and put in your zip code. And what it'll do is it will actually pull up all of the diabetes prevention programs in your area. It has the in-person programs as well as the online programs. If I went back and selected, have I been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes? The difference in the two is that the first set was pulling from the diabetes prevention program from the back end of the CDC database. The difference with this one, having been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, it's pulling here from our recognized education programs with the American Diabetes Association. So again, you're able to put in your zip code and you can pull all of the diabetes education programs in your area. I'm going to switch over now to sharing a little bit more around a new tool that ADA is coming out with. So we really wanted to be able to give you a sneak peek on what ADA is working on. The modules that I'm going to share with you, the reason that we created them as an organization is because the #1 question that we're receiving from people is, what can I eat? What should I eat? And we know that there's a very large education gap. So we know that if people are on private health insurance, less than 7% of people are actually receiving diabetes education. If they're on Medicaid or Medicare, it's less than 5% of people are receiving education. And we know that it's hard to make positive health outcomes without having that foundation of education. That's the other reason with our diabetes risk test, why we ask that question if you've been diagnosed with type 2 and we're connecting people with diabetes education, is because of that gap in education that we're seeing. So ADA, we created nutrition education modules to really address behavior change and emotional connection with food. The modules that I'm going to share with you today are rooted in the American Diabetes Association Standards of Care, as well as our nutrition consensus report. When we created the modules, we really kept an eye on the language level, the approachability, as well as how long somebody would be spending with the items. Something that we've noticed and others have noticed with COVID is that attention span has really shrunk. And so we were very thoughtful with these modules to have them be short, snackable content, meaning that it would take less than 5 to 10 minutes of engaging with the module. And then the modules are also meant to be highly interactive. They can be consumed on a desktop mobile device, or on our app. We have modules that can be viewed as well as downloaded. So if somebody's taking the bus or the train to work, or there's some place where they're not going to have internet connectivity, they can actually download the module to be able to consume it that way. So the modules that I'm sharing on my screen, we've created 10 weeks worth of content. The first week is where we really talk about the emotional connection with food, as well as goal setting. We've got the diabetes plate method and portion and label reading, carb-rich foods and fiber. For this section, we're really looking at how to fit sweet foods in, because there's a misperception that if you have diabetes that you can't have sweets, which isn't true. It's within moderation and making sure that it fits into your plate. And then the how to change out, how to switch from sugar sweetened beverages, powerful proteins, healthy fats, and a cook along activity. We do talk about more flavor, less salt, the money saving meal plans and budget friendly shopping. This cook at home episode, we do feature a resource from ADA, the Diabetes Food Hub, and then also holidays and social eating and dining out. And so these modules, again, were created to be highly interactive. I will go into one of the modules and I will share this with you. It'll just take it a second to load.
Hello and welcome to this session on the Diabetes Plate Method, which is part of the Plan Your Plate education module. This course contains audio, so feel free to adjust your volume as needed. In addition, you can read along the narration script using the CC button in the lower navigational pane. Today, we'll spend approximately 5 minutes learning about creating a healthy lifestyle while living with diabetes. Select the Next button and let's begin. When managing diabetes, it's important to remember that you can eat carbs and still manage blood glucose, sometimes called blood sugar. The key is to know both which foods are high in carbs and to manage how much of them you eat. The good news is that there are tools you can use to help you eat a healthy amount of carbs at each meal. One tool is called the Diabetes Plate Method. In this module, you'll learn about this method, how to compare plates, and create a plate that's just right for you. Using the Diabetes Plate Method helps you eat the right amount and type of carbs, helping to keep your blood glucose from going too high. Let's learn more about the Diabetes Plate Method. Imagine a 9-inch round dinner plate, which is smaller than the typical 10.5 to 12-inch dinner plate. Now imagine a line being drawn down the middle, splitting the plate into two halves. Finally, on one of the halved sides, a line splits that section into two equally sized parts. Your plate now has three sections, a 1/2 of the plate section and two quarter sections. Now that we have our diabetes plate in place, it's important to plan which carbs you eat and how much you eat. The diabetes plate method helps you plan healthy meals using the plate sections. Select each section of the plate to learn more about what goes into each section. The biggest section of the plate is for vegetables that don't have a lot of carbs. Remember, starchy foods like potatoes, peas, and corn would not go here. They are high in carbs, so they go in a small section of your plate. Vegetables that should fill the large section are called non-starchy vegetables and include foods like tomatoes, greens, peppers, or green beans. Using the largest section of the diabetes plate method for non-starchy vegetables is a great way to satisfy your appetite and have a minimal impact on your blood glucose. Check the practice tools for a link to help plan this section of your plate.
So I just want to show you that if I try to go forward, it actually asks me to finish this section. So we'll go through the rest of the sections of the plate.
Carbs should fill one of the smaller sections, or about a quarter of the plate. Carbs include foods like bread, rolls, tortillas, rice, dried peas, cornbread, and beans, legumes. One of the small sections on the plate, or a quarter of the plate, is for protein. Possible protein sources include chicken, beef, pork, fish, cheese, and nuts. We'll learn more about protein in another lesson. You should drink water or some other zero-calorie drink. The most important thing to remember from this lesson is your carb choice should only fill one of the small sections on your plate. Let's put this thinking into practice with an activity. On the following slides, we'll review 5 example plates. For each plate, review its contents and then select if you think it follows the diabetes plate method you just learned. Select next when you're ready and have fun learning. Does this plate follow the diabetes plate method? Select a response and select submit.
So I'm going to say that it does, but I also have the chat up for the next 4 plates.
This plate fits the
If you want to
diabetes
put
plate
in the
method
chat.
because half the plate is non-starchy vegetables, green salad, and carbs, mashed potatoes, and protein, meatloaf, fill smaller sections of the plate.
So if you want to put in the chat for the next couple on how to answer. So does this plate fit the diabetes plate method? I am going to answer no, so you can see what happens.
Actually, this plate does fit the diabetes plate method because half the plate is non-starchy vegetables, greens and yellow squash, and carbs, sweet potatoes, and protein, chicken, fill smaller sections of the plate.
So this plate does not fit the plate method. Thank you, Danielle. We'll go with your choice.
This plate does not fit the diabetes plate method because over half the plate is carb foods, mashed potatoes, and peas. There are no non-starchy vegetables, and the protein is taking up more than a small section of the plate.
What do you think? Does this one fit the diabetes plate method? We'll go with yes.
Yes, this plate fits the diabetes plate method because half the plate is non-starchy vegetables, green beans, and carbs, rice, and protein, steak, fill smaller sections of the plate.
This last one is my favorite. It looks like a Thanksgiving plate. What do you think? Okay, we'll go with it does not fit the diabetes plate method.
That's right. This plate does not fit the diabetes plate method because over half the plate is carb foods, mashed potatoes, macaroni, roll, stuffing, corn, and the non-starchy vegetable, greens, is less than half the plate. It's good to note, however, that the protein, turkey, is correctly portioned as it fills one of the smaller sections.
So again, in all of these answers, we're not trying to tell someone that they're wrong. We're trying to tell them what the correct answer is. But also in this example, you know, to note the additional, that the turkey does fit the correct size portion. So we, as ADA, we did, you know, look at adult learning styles when this was created, in trying to have it be highly interactive.
Use the diabetes plate method for each of your meals, and you're on your way to a healthy way of eating. You can ease your way into this by picking one meal to start with. Choose whichever meal might be easiest. Usually that's a meal you eat at home. After 2 weeks of doing this, try adding another meal. Your long-term goal could be to use this method for every meal. You can do it.
So again, really trying to work to set goals, to not tell somebody, okay, now that you've learned this, go in and do this for every meal, but really trying to set reasonable goals.
You're well on your way to choosing foods that will help you be healthy. In this module, you learned about the diabetes plate method, as well as compared typical food plates. Good job. You can now close this course window to continue on your learning journey.
So ADA, we created a number of these modules, and these will be ready for us to take fully into market in Q2. Right now, what we are looking for is partners that are interested in participating in a pilot, so to be an early adopter with this content. The way that we are deploying this content, it would be that you can select a certain number of modules, so you can identify what topics. So if you want a goal setting and you know, how to do the plate planning, as well as, you know, how to use less salt, not only does it come with the modules, but it also comes with additional handouts. So for example, with the diabetes plate method, it's very popular. We've got a placemat, and so a participant would receive the digital placemat. Same thing with reading portion labels. We've got an additional handout there. As far as, I see the question in the chat, if there is any completion award or certificate. Not now, but that's a really good suggestion, and I'd love to be able to take that back to our team. So I just want to check and see if there are any additional questions. I'd be happy to respond to those, or we can send a follow-up. Okay. If you want to click the leave breakout room, that'll take you back to the main session now.